Okay, so thought I'd do another paper, upload a couple this time round. So this one is the June 2018. So I'm looking at the two most recent paper ones, getting us ready for that exam on Tuesday. So question one requires that I work out a half times 5, which is the same as half of 5. Half of 5, 2.5. Circle the number that is 5 less than minus 2, so imagine my negative numbers on a line, there's me minus 2, me 0's here, minus 1 is there. I want to go 5 that way, so it's minus 2 and then 5 that way will take me to minus 7. Simplify 3 times A times 3 times A, circle your answer. So when we do problems like this, we kind of rejig the order, so we get the numbers first and the letters after. 3 times 3 is 9, A times A squared. Question 4, which shape is similar to X? So similar means it is similar as in a perfect enlargement. If it's got longer and taller in the same dimension, and the area should have increased accordingly as well. So A has got wider but not kind of bigger in area, or taller, so that's not similar. B is pretty much the same shape but fatter, not similar. D has a different shaped arrow at the front, so the shape which is similar is C. Question 5. Work out 20% of 14,000. Well, 10%, we knock the 0 off, and we double 2,800 for 20%. Question 6a, write 0.85 as a fraction in its simplest form. Any two-digit decimal can be written as that two-digit decimal out of 100. Both of these numbers will divide by 5. 100 divides by 5 to give 20. Lovely effect on the writing there. And then how many 5s in 85? Well, it's 16 in 80 plus 1 is 17. So 17 20ths. On text effects. Let's try it out. 17 over 20. Write 5/8 as a decimal. So 5/8 is a decimal. So the trick to doing this really would be to divide 5 by 8 in the bus stop. The decimal there. So 5's 8. How many 8s are in 5? I can't, so I have to use it as 10s. How many 8s in 50? Well, 8 6s are 48. So 6 8s are 48 with 2 left over that we carry on to there. And then 8 into 2, there's 2, which is 16 with 4 left over. Then 8 into 40 goes 5 times. So one way we could get to the answer is by knowing that 5/8 is 0.625 by doing the division like that. Another way, I suppose, is if we know that 1/4 is 0.25, then 0, 0.250, then 1/8 will be half of that. So half of 0.250 will be 0.125. So then 5/8 will be 5 lots of 0.125. And you could do it that way as well. Or you could say that 5/8 is a half plus 0.125. Whichever way you do it, you're going to end up with that 0.625. Question 7. A rectangular carpet measures 8 by 6. Part of the carpet is covered by a square rug length 2. Show that 1/12 of the carpet is covered by rug. So I'm guessing they're talking about area here. So 1/12 of the carpet area is covered by rug area. So carpet area, 8 times 6 is 48 metres squared. Rug area is 2 times 2, which is 4 metres squared. And then 4 out of 48 is the same as 1 out of 12. Question 8. Sam, Carl and Eric share 40 sweets. Eric gets the largest share. What is the smallest number of sweets that Eric could get? So what we want here is we want Eric to have the biggest amount of sweets of the 3 people, but have the smallest possible number of sweets to achieve that. So I suppose the sensible way might be if we got all the sweets and divided them amongst the 3 of them. So if I divide 40 by 3, obviously it doesn't give exactly. So 3, 6, 9, 12, I'm going to get 30 is 10, 30, 11, 33, 12, 36, 13 is 39, with 1 left over. So what that suggests is that if they shared out the sweets equally, they'd each get 13 and there'd be 1 left in the middle. So if Eric gets the largest number, he nicks the one in the middle. The smallest number of sweets that Eric could get would be 14, with the other 2 having 13 each. Question 9, the time in Rio is 3 hours behind London. The time in New York is 5 hours behind London. What is the time in New York when it's 1 AM in Rio? So Rio is behind London, and then New York is 5 behind. All right, so London is the furthest ahead. Minus 3 hours to get to Rio from London, and minus 5 hours to get to New York from London. So if I go 3 hours back, I'm at Rio, and then New York must therefore be 2 hours back from Rio. So if it's 1 AM in Rio, then 2 hours before 1 AM will be 11 PM on the previous day. So it's 11 PM in New York. Question 10, here is a list of numbers to find the median. So when I find the median, I need to write the numbers out in order. Now, what I will quite often do when I'm writing numbers out in order like this is to write them underneath the original list. If I've got room, that really is a brilliant way to do things, because that way you know that you've definitely not missed any of the numbers. You could also cross them off like that. So if I line them up like that, I know I've not missed any. Now, to work out the median, I could cross one off either side, like that, until I've got one left in the middle, or I could be doing the other method, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers. 10 plus 1 is 11, divided by 2 is 5.5, so I would know that it's halfway between the 5th and 6th number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm looking between those two, halfway between 4 and 5 is 4.5. Alternatively, you're going to go 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. We've got 2 left in the middle, so we add them together and half it. 4 plus 5 is 9, divided by 2, 4.5. Next, we need to work out the mean. So I need to add these numbers together. So 5 plus 6 is 11, plus 1 is 12, plus 3 is 15, plus 5 is 20, plus 5 is 25, plus 8 is 33, plus 4 is 37, 38, 39, 40, 41 is the total of the numbers, divided by the 10 values. Now, when I divide a number that doesn't end with 0 by 10, I simply move the decimal point 1 space back. Well, actually, I don't. Technically, I move all the numbers 1 place value forward, so the 10s become units, the units become first decimal place, and so on. But that's the appearance it gives, that the decimal point appears to have moved 1 space back. So 4.1 would be the mean. Question 11. 300 passengers go on a coach trip. Each coach takes 50 passengers. Each passenger pays £25. The table shows the cost for the coach company. Each coach travels 200 miles, work out the profit. So, right, 300 passengers go, each coach takes 50 passengers. So that can be used to work out how many coaches I'm going to need. So 50, 100, so 100, 250, 6 coaches are needed. So if I've got 6 coaches, each passenger pays £25, so there's 300 passengers paying £25 each, so 3 lots of 25 is 75, add the 2 zeros, so that's £7,500 earned from the people buying their tickets. Now, once I know how much we've earned to work out the profit, I also need to know the costs. So I've worked out what we've earned, I need to know the costs. So we need for each coach to pay for a driver. So there's 6 coaches times by £90. 6 times 9 is 54, add the 0. So we're paying £540 of costs for the drivers. Right, we also need to pay for fuel, which is 70 pence per mile. So 70p times by 200 miles each coach travels is 1, 4, and then 1, 2, 3 zeros. But remembering that's in pence, so that's £140 per coach. So I still need to multiply that by 6. 140 times 6. I'll put it down here. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, £840 is the total cost for the drivers, for the coach fuel, sorry. So 840 plus 540 is 1,380. So 1,380 in costs that we then remove from the money we've earned. Ten take away is 2, 4 take away 3 is 1, 7 take away 1 is 6. 6,120 plus. Okay, question 12. Work out 16.4, take 3.92 plus 7.8. Right, so let's start by doing subtraction. 16.4 minus 3.92. Okay, don't get confused in thinking you need BODMAS here. Once we're down to addition and subtraction, we can just work left to right. So let's think here that we've got to borrow one of those to get 10 to make it 8. And we need to borrow one of those, so we can have 13 to take the 9 away, giving 4. The decimal point always stays at the same place. 5 take 3 is 2, and the 1 take away the nothing is 1. So we've got 12.48, and now we need to add on 7.8 onto that. 12.48 plus 7.8. So again, lining up at the decimal point, 8 plus nothing is 8, 4 plus 8 is 12, and then the decimal point's there. 2 plus 7 is 9, plus 1 is 10, and 1 and 1 is 2, so I get 20.28. Question B, work out 2,843.61 divided by 7. Lovely bit of bus stopping coming up. So we've got to put 7 into what is an absolutely hideous number, if I'm honest. So how many 7s are into 2? That doesn't work, so we use the 2 as 10s over here. How many 7s in 28? Well, 4 7s are 28. 7s into 4, we get none, so then we use the 4 as 10s here. 7 6s, 7 times 6 is 42. So out of the 43, I've still got 1 left over. 7 into 16, so 2 7s is 14. But I've got 2 left over there, and then 7s into 21 is 3, so I've got 406.23. Big bit of bus stop method. Question 13, in a game 2 first spinners are spun. If the numbers the arrows land on are different, the score is the higher number. If the numbers the arrows land on are the same, the score is 0. Okay, so completely save us the possibilities. I've got a spin a 1 and a 2. I always score the higher number, 1 and a 3, 1 and a 5. A 2 and a 2, however, they're the same number, so that scores 0. 3 and a 2, I score the 3. 5 and a 2, I score the 5. 4 and a 2, I'd score the 4. 4 is higher than 3, but then the 5 is higher than the 4. 6 is higher than all of these numbers, so there we go. So that's the table to show the scores. What is the probability that the score is an odd number? So there's 4, 8, 12, 16 different outcomes. How many of them are odd? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. There we go. 5 out of 16. The same game is played using spinners C and D. The numbers on C are shown. The table shows the spots, so I don't know what D is. I've got to work out what the numbers on D are. So I know that the number which is higher is always what I'd score. Okay, brilliant. So if I look here, if I've scored a 4 here when I've spun a 1, that must mean there was a 4 there, because that 4 was the higher number. So with that in play, I can now fill out this column, can't I? So I can say that there was 0 there, because it was 4 and 4. 6 there, because the 6 is higher, and 7 there, because the 7 is higher. If I've scored a 0 here, that must have meant there was another 4, because the numbers need to be the same to score a 0. That must mean also that there was a 7 here, because you need a 7 to score the 0. And if there's an 8 there, that must mean that was the highest score. So I've got 4, 4, 7, 8. Oh, right, didn't need to fill out the table. Cool. Question 14a. Assuming that I think I'm missing the first part of this question. Any moment. Hang on. presentation. So, carry on there. So now we say 2 people working at the same rate will take 6 hours to paint a room. There we go. Assuming that they all work at this rate, how long will it take 3 people to paint the room? So what we need to do is work out how many people's worth of hours we need to paint the room. So if 2 people are giving 6 hours each, that means that altogether we need 12 hours of work that we're assuming we can share out fairly, to be shared amongst 3 people instead of 2. So 12 divided by 3 will give me 4 hours. In fact, the third person works at a faster rate. How does this affect the time? So if the third person's even faster, then they should get done quicker, shouldn't they? So it will take less time needed. Less time. So they brought in Bob, the super painter. I'm going to paint all this. Here we go. Right, super. Right, question 15. 3a plus b equals 7 and 6x plus 8y equals 40 show that 9a plus 3b has a greater value than 3x plus 4y. Okay, well, that's a bit of a weird question, but let's go with it. So if 3a plus b is equal to 7, then 3 times as many a's plus 3 times as many b's will total 3 times as much. If 6x plus 8y is equal to 40, then half as many x's plus half as many y's will equal half as much. I think that'll do. So 20 bigger than 21. Maybe I should just state that. 21 is bigger than 20. Question 16. The point x lies on the circle. The point that lies on the line x take 3 is 0. So to work out what points lie on the line x minus 3 is 0, I need to work out where the x coordinate, when I take 3 away, it's 0. So the x coordinate here, 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 take 3 is minus 3, minus 3 take 3 is minus 6, 0 take 3 is minus 3. None of the others work, it's got to be 3, 0. 3 take 3 makes 0, so the x coordinate, when I take 3 from it, is 0. A is a negative odd number. Circle the words that describe a squared. So what they're testing me out on here, presumably, is knowing that when I multiply an odd number, or a negative number, sorry, by another, or the same negative number, what do I get? Well, when I multiply negative by a negative, I just get the positive product. So minus 3 times minus 3 is 9. Let's try minus 5 times minus 5 is plus 25. So when I do an odd times an odd, it seems to me that I'm getting an odd number. And then obviously a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm always going to get a number that is both positive and odd. Circle the ratio, which is the same scale as 1 centimetre represents 1 kilometre. Well, 1 centimetre to 1 kilometre, we need to change it to the same units. So we've got 1 centimetre to 1,000 metres, and each metre is worth 100 centimetres. So 1 centimetre to 100,000 centimetres, we can now forget the unit. So it's 1 to 100,000. There we go. Again, worth pointing out that we've just had a few multi-choice questions, so there's a good chance that everything that follows this is higher paper crossover. Circle the percentage that is closest in value to a third. So, 1/3 is 33.3333 and so on percent, isn't it? So, which one's closest? So, basically 30 is obviously furthest away. 33.3 is nearer than 33.4. So if I was to take 33.3 recurring and round it, which one would it be? 33.3, 33.4. Well, because it's 3 then a 3, I'd round down to 3. So 33.3 is the best. Question 20. Work out the square root of 121 minus 13 minus 5 times 2, or, ooh, lovely. So bid mass, say I do the brackets first. So 13, take 5 times 2. But I've still got to follow bid mass again in the bracket. So in the bracket, I'm going to end up with 5 times 2 is 13, take 10. So 13 take 10 is 3. So let's just work this through one step at a time. So 13 take 10 will be 3. Right, so that's my bracket figured. My next job is to do my indices. Now square roots actually count as indices as well, so I'm doing both of these things simultaneously. So 121 square rooted is 11, minus 3 squared, which is 9. 11 minus 9 is 2. Question 21. Reflect triangle in the line x equals minus 2. So the line x equals minus 2 is the line where the x coordinate is 2. So the line x equals 2 is that line of points there where the x coordinate is 2. So if I'm reflecting here, this corner goes 1 square to the line, 1 square beyond. This corner goes 1, 2, 3 to the line, 1, 2, 3 beyond. This corner goes 1 to the line, 1 beyond. There's the 3 corners of my reflected triangle. Okay, question 21b. Rotate the kite 90 degrees anti-clockwise about 0, 0. So if I've got this in an exam, I might well be tempted to grab some tracing paper to do this. So anti-clockwise means we're going against the clock. 90 degrees means a quarter turn. So the way I'll tend to do this is I'm just going to kind of imagine rotating that line, which will end up there. So this corner here is going to be there. And then if I rotate my page, I'll be able to see what this thing looks like when it's rotated 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So I'm going to kind of have the shape so that it goes 2 squares diagonally like that, 2 squares diagonally like that, and then that's the top like that. So it's going to go 2 diagonally like that, 2 diagonally like that, and then kind of 1 across, 2 across, 1 up, like that. It's going to go in there. So there, that's where that shape ends up. Might well be tempted to use some tracing paper for that if I was in an exam in your position. Question 22. Anna plays a computer game. Each game is a win or a loss. She wins 3 quarters of her first 24 games, then wins her next 12 games. For all 36 games, work out the ratio of wins to losses. So basically, I'm going to work out how many games she wins, how many games she loses. So she wins 3 quarters of her first 24. So 3 quarters of 24. 24 divided by 4, and then times by 3. So 24 divided by 4 is 6, times 3 is 18. So she won 18 of these games, and then a further 12. 18 and 12 is 30. So she won 30 games. How many did she lose? Well, she played 36. She must have lost 6. So it's 30 to 6. Oh, but it wants our answer in its simplest form. Half them both, 15 to 3, and then they're both in the 3 times table. 5 times 3 makes 15, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that's my final answer, 5 to 1. Question 23. A solid shape is made from centimetre cubes. Here are the plan, side and front elevation of the shape. Centimetre cubes are added to make this cuboid. How many cubes are added? So from above it looks like an L shape. From the front it looks like a solid rectangle, 3 by 4. And from the side we've got, so my brain's telling me that this side must be kind of going back from there. So I've got the kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, like that. That side there must be attached to that, so that must be 4 squares tall. The only thing that makes sense. Okay, and if it's an L shape, that must be all there is to it. So there must be nothing more. So how many cubes have I got? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cubes at the front. Now that's included those cubes. Then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 that must make and this bit going back from there, so it kind of goes back from that first row, so that I've got 4 there, and then a pile of 3 behind that I can't see, 2 and 2. Okay, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I've used 19 cubes already to make the shape I've got. Now, what cubes do I need to make this cuboid? So this cuboid is just the volume, so 3 by 4 by 4 cubes. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 4 is 48. So I've got 19 cubes, I need to have 48 cubes. How many were added? Alright, so if I take 19 off 48, take 20 and add 1 on. So 48 take 20 is 28, add 1 on, so 29 cubes. That's the number of cubes that were added. Very strange question that, so you have to kind of visualise the idea that the side has to attach, so this bit here has to attach here and kind of go backwards that way, and there can't be anything else on the side because the plan tells us that from above this shape's got to look like an L. Question 24. Divide 405 in the ratio 4 to 11. Okay, that would be a really nice question if it was on a calculator paper. So I've got to divide 405 by 15. Now, if I've got to divide 405 by 15, rather than using the bus stop method, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by using what I call the simplifying method. So if I've got 405 and 15, I know that they're both in the 5 times table. So how many 5s make 405? Well, 25s make 100. So 20, 40, 60, 85s make 400. So 81 would make 405. And then 3 5s are 15. So how many 3s make 81? So that's a much nicer division to do with my bus stop. So 3s into 8 goes 2, remainder 2, 3s into 21 goes 7. So 81 divided by 3, 27. So I've done 27 is the size of each part. So I need to do 27 times 4 and 27 times 11. So 27 and 27 is 54. Then double it again, that's 108. Then 27 times 11 will be 27 times 10 plus another 27. So it's 108 to 297. I'm just going to do a check, just in case my maths has been a bit ropey. I'm going to add 297 and 108 and make sure I get the 405. So 7 and 8 is 15. 9 and 1 is 10, and 2, 3, 4, 405. I am happy with that now. So yeah, that would be a nice question on a calculator paper, but on a non-calculator paper, it's like death by number work. Okay, where are we? Question 25. The height of Zach is 1.86 metres. The height of Fred is 1.6 metres. Write the height of Zach as a fraction of the height of Fred. Give your answer in its simplest form. So the height of Zach is 1.86 out of the height of Fred, which is 1.6. Lovely. So we can't really have a fraction with all these horrible decimals in. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by the same thing to make them whole numbers. So 1.86 times 100 is 186. 1.6 times 100 is 160. So let's work in centimetres. It's a lot nicer, isn't it? 186 out of 160. So then I can simplify that. Half of 186 is 93. Half of 160 is 80. Is that as simple as it gets? I think it is really. 9 and 3 is in the 10 times table. Is in the, sorry, 9 plus 3 is 12, it's in the 3 times table. But then 80 is not in the 3 times table. So yeah, I think I've got all I can there. So I would say 93 80ths. I reckon they might give me that. Possibly I might want to go to 113 80ths. The height of Z as a fraction of the height of Fred. 1.86. Very strange. Question 26. A is 0.2, B is 6.5. A point's on a straight line. A to B is the same as B to C is the same as C to D. What's the coordinates of D? So if I know that this distance, and this distance are the same, the horizontal and vertical changes will be the same. So I go up 6 to get to 6 from 0, and I go up 3 to get to 5. So now I'm going to go up another 6 to get to 12, and then up another 3 to get to 8, up another 6 to get to 18, up another 3 to get to 11. So the point D, 18, 11. 27. A coin is thrown 50 times, it lands on heads 31 times. Write down the relative frequency it lands on heads. So relative frequency is just the number of successes divided by the number of trials. That's your relative frequency. Rice says the coin is biased towards heads. Use the data to give a reason why it might be correct. Well, I suppose you'd say it landed on heads more times than tails. I feel like that I want this to be more challenging at this stage in the paper, but I'm not going to complain. So it landed on heads more times than tails should be about the same. And 25, something like that. Okay, question 28. Solve 5 brackets x plus 3 is less than 60. Two ways to do this. Step 1 might be to multiply the brackets. 5x plus 15 is less than 60. After that, very much like an equation, take 15 off both sides. So we get 5x is smaller than 60, take 15, 45. Then divide by 5 on both sides. X would need to be smaller than 45 divided by 5 is 9. Always worth checking once you've got the answer. Pick a number less than 9. So let's say x is 5. So then put it into the problem. 5 bracket 5 plus 3. What is that? So that's 5 times 8, which is 40. So if x is less than 9, we get 40 there, which is less than 60. Let's just check an x more than 9. So let's go for that x is 10. We'd get 5 brackets 10 plus 3, which is 5 times 13. 5 times 13 is 50 plus 15 is 65. That's more than 60. So that looks like, yeah, my x is less than 9. Seems to be a nice answer. Note that you could have done this without multiplying out brackets because 60 does divide by 5 quite nicely. So we could say the first step is to divide by 5 on both sides. To get this divided by 5 just leaves you with the x plus 3. And then 60 divided by 5 is 12. Then take 3 off both sides to get 1x is less than 9. Question 29. The range of a set of numbers is 15 and 1/4. The smallest number is minus 2 and 7/8. Work out the largest number. So the range is the difference between the smallest and the biggest. So it's saying that when we go from minus 2 and 7/8, there's a difference of 15 and 1/4 to reach the biggest number. So that means that I need to add on 15 and 1/4 to minus 2 and 7/8, which is the same as taking 2 and 7/8 off 15 and 1/4. So let's do 15 and 1/4 minus 2 and 7/8, because that will tell me where my biggest number is. So then, if I want to subtract fractions, I need the same denominator. So I'm going to call that 15 and 1/4 is the same as 2/8. I don't do it by converting to top-heavy fractions like a number of people would, because I find that it saves with horrible numbers, like 15 and 2/8 as a top-heavy fraction ain't going to be lovely. So 15 take the 2 is 13, 2/8 take 7/8 is minus 5/8. Now the problem here is obviously that we're not allowed to have a negative. 13 and minus 5/8 doesn't make sense. So what I do is I take the 5/8 away from the 13. So I'm going to end up with 12 whole ones, and then because 1 whole one is worth 8/8, if I take 5 of them away, I'll have 3/8 left over. There we go. So 12 and 3/8. final answer. Question 30. Y is inversely proportional to x. Not often you see this on foundation papers. Inversely proportional basically means that y is equal to some number divided by x. That's what inverse proportion means. Direct proportion means it's a number times x. So if we look at what information we've got here, we can see that when x is 6, y is 4. So 4 is equal to some number divided by 6. So what number, when I divide it by 6, gives me 4? That will be 6 times 4, 24. So the k is worth 24. So I've now got this formula that the y is 24 divided by whatever the x is. So to work out the y, I just need to do 24 divided by 12, which is 2. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier to work out the x. So I know that the 8 is 24 divided by whatever the x is. So what do I divide 24 by to get 8? So 8 plus 8 is 16 plus 8 is 3. There we go. And there's the two missing numbers. 2 and 3. Question 31. A large rectangle is made by joining 3 identical small rectangles as shown. The perimeter of one small rectangle is 15. Work out the perimeter of the large rectangle. Now, I can't just take 15 and multiply it by 3 because we can see that there's a length and 2 widths that are being taken out of the perimeter of the 3 rectangles when they're put together. In fact, there's 2 lengths and 3 lengths and 2 widths that are being taken out of that perimeter. So it's not as simple as just tripling the perimeter of the rectangle. So if I know that the perimeter of a rectangle is 15, I need to know what the length and width is, really, to my mind. So this diagram shows me more than you might think. Because I can see that the 2 widths, here and here, make up one length, I can say that the length is the same as 2 widths. So my rectangle, as I go around, is a width, 2 widths, a width, and 2 widths. So altogether there's 2, 4, 5, 6 widths in my rectangle. Now I know that the perimeter is 15. So if 6 widths is 15, I need to divide 15 by 6. W is equal to 15 divided by 6. Now 15 divided by 6 will simplify if I divide top and bottom by 3 to 5 divided by 2, and half of 5 is 2.5. There we go. So I now know that the width of each rectangle is 2.5. So that bit's 2.5, that bit's 2.5, and so is that bit. And because each width is 2.5, and I can see quite clearly that 2.5 and 2.5 here makes 5 there, 5 there, and 5 there. So if we look, going round, I've got 5, 10, 15, 20 for those two, and 25 for those two. So 25 centimetres is the total all the way round. Question 32, last one on the paper. Put these numbers in order from smallest to largest. So they've been nice, they've given me 1, 2, 3 numbers in standard form. So what would be a lot easier is if they'd given me this number in standard form. So I'm going to need to put the decimal point there, 7 times by 10. And then I'd need to move it 2 spaces backwards, divide by 10 twice. So I need 10 to the minus 2. Now once I've got numbers in standard form, I can see the smallest to the largest by just looking at the powers of 10. So I can see that I've got 2 numbers that are tied on 10 to the minus 4. So 10 to the minus 4 will mean that these two are smaller than the ones which are 10 to the minus 2. So which one's smaller? Well, the 6 is smaller than the 8. So the smallest number is the 6 times 10 to the minus 4. And the next smallest will be the 8 times 10 to the minus 4. The smaller the power of 10, the smaller the number. Unless there's negative involved, thankfully there's not. So then I've got 2 which have got a power of minus 2. The 4 times 10 to the minus 2 is smaller than the 7 times 10 to the minus 2, which was 0.07. That's given it in the format that they've given it to us. Okay, so that was the last question on the page. I hope that's been useful for you, and I'll get these uploaded. Well, you'll know that I've uploaded